Iron Meat is a retro-inspired run-and-gun shooter that puts players in the middle of an Earth invasion. 9 levels packed to the brim with meat-infected soldiers, vehicles, and one evil mad scientist. Like most games in the run-and-gun genre, in Iron Meat you mostly run and mostly gun. Gameplay is front and center. Run right, shoot, and survive. But just beneath the surface of this gory gameplay is a deeper story. What is the meat parasite? Why does it want to consume technology on Earth? And how does humanity survive and stop it? Answers to all of these questions and more as we dive into the story of Iron Meat. Spoilers ahead. Iron Meat takes place in a world much like ours, but in a different reality where humanity developed advanced technology earlier in our history. Humans have spread across the solar system, making assorted colonies, but the biggest are on Mars and the Moon. To reach these far-off colonies faster, humanity started to research teleportation using portal technology. In one of humanity's greatest achievements, a functioning portal was created between Earth and the Moon. However, this pioneering field wasn't fully understood. Thus, the Institute of Teleportation was founded to study the safety of portal tech. We meet Yuri Markov, an ambitious Institute scientist stationed at a secret teleportation lab on the Moon. Years into his research, Yuri makes an incredible breakthrough and discovers other dimensions. This discovery has the potential to take teleportation technology, humanity, and most importantly, Yuri's career, to the next level. Without approval, he begins unsanctioned experiments probing into the unknown dimensional depths. Little did Yuri know, these repeated experiments acted as a giant signal flare to a malevolent eldritch horror, a hyper-intelligent universe-sized entity of pure flesh called the Meat. For billions of years, the Meat has prolonged its survival by invading and feasting on the energy of other universes. And thanks to Yuri, it just found its next meal. Thankfully for humanity, teleporting between dimensions takes an immeasurable amount of energy on both sides of the portal. With humanity's portals being so weak, the Meat could only send one cell of itself through the Moon portal, like a Trojan horse. Yuri Markov then discovers the single cell of the Meat and brings it into his lab for reckless experiments. He finds it capable of consuming and absorbing anything from iron-rich metals to lab rats and even human cadavers. It gets smarter and smarter the larger it grows, and specifically craves brain tissue. Little does Yuri know that being one of the smartest humans alive makes him the perfect target. The Meat strikes and breaks out of its containment, devouring Yuri Markov. Infusing his consciousness with dormant abilities, his body gains psychokinetic powers and becomes the Meat Prophet. Former scientist turned meat prophet then flies off and infects the rest of the base, mutating former co-workers and soldiers into zombies. Infecting flesh and machine alike, the Meat builds its war machine to take over our universe. As the outbreak begins, Sasha, a veteran Moon soldier, manages to send a last-minute SOS to Earth. This gives Earth forces enough time to form the Earth Counter-Invasion Force, or ECIF for short, a worldwide alliance unified against the Meat. The now infected Yuri Markov teleports to the Institute of Teleportation, the location of humanity's second portal on Earth. He kills the soldiers guarding it and releases his newly created army of meat monsters. Through this portal, we see a glimmer of the Meat's dimension. The Meat is just looming on the fringes, waiting to be let in. If the Meat Prophet can leech enough energy from our world, the Earth portal could be fully linked to the Meat realm, sucking our dimension dry and letting in untold, undefeatable horrors. Vadim, our main character, is a soldier stationed in a forest sector. He is deployed with others to defend the sudden attack. And if you're playing with a second player, Vadim partners up with Dmitri, a former salesman turned ECIF soldier. I like to think that he's a shoe salesman.
Your ad says courteous service.
But that's not my ad, ma'am. That's the former owner's. He was killed tragically on this very spot when a size 9 exploded in his face.
Our hero Vadim's mission is to reach the communications tower and regain control, in hopes of using it to warn the rest of the ECIF about the Meat's invasion of his sector. Within hours of the meat's invasion, the parasite has already infected everything from humans to explosive barrels, turrets, and anything consisting of iron, even human blood. Luckily for our hero, his armor is made of specialized titanium, which makes him impervious to becoming infected. However, a direct hit from the ultra-powerful meat monsters or energy projectiles will be fatal. Along the way, Vadim is fighting alongside his fellow ECIF soldiers. They even give him upgrades and new weapons. Vadim fights his way through the meatified forest, but before he can access the communications tower, an infected tank blocks the way. After defeating it, Vadim runs inside the communication tower. Vadim makes his way to the top of the tower, jumping from platform to platform, fighting against hordes of the meatified humans, malfunctioning turrets, and new meat forms. The meat, now assimilated with the tower's technology, creates new, more dangerous threats. Meat chains moving from wall to wall, grub spawners using vents as their dens, and meat bulbs controlling lasers with their mind. The meat prophet has been busy, but where has he gone? At the top, we find Yuri, the meat prophet, bathing in a serum-filled tank, enhancing his new psychokinetic abilities. Markov manipulates the tower's exhaust pipes to attack Vadim, who manages to destroy the container, giving the now fully powered meat prophet an opening to make his escape. After the fight, a distress signal appears, sent by a nearby military base. In an effort to stop Markov, Vadim hops on an airbike hoping to reach the survivors first. During the chase, Vadim loses his airbike and lands on a runaway train. In the distance, he sees giant meat meteors falling into a vast factory district. The rest of the planet must be getting infected by these meteors being slingshotted from the moon's orbit. Speaking of the moon, for the first time we can see it in the sky, and how it's undergoing its full-on meat transformation. The moon is made of iron, and the meat is feasting. And the earth is also made of iron. Vadim must crush the meat prophet and the meat's forces here before the entire planet is consumed. Vadim fights his way to the front of the train, at one point encountering a human soldier becoming infected by the meat. The soldier throws him a weapon upgrade before he takes his own life with a pair of grenades, refusing to join the meat hive mind. At the front of the train, Vadim encounters the Carry-On Boy, a horrifying amalgamation of a train engine and passenger cars infected by the meat, and he battles the monster inside a series of tunnels, taking him underneath a military base. After killing the beast, he then enters the base and finds survivors and the location of the meat prophet. Inside the infested military installation, Vadim battles all sorts of creatures. Some of them lashed onto chains, morphed into box monsters, grubs and meatworms dropping down from ventilation shafts, and even burning elevators with infected humans jumping out. He passes by corpses of dead and half-infected humans, along with overgrowth spewing green plasma into other vein-like exhaust pipes. It becomes clear the ECIF has gone through great lengths to secure this base in particular. But why? Toward the end of the level, we find a surviving camp of soldiers and scientists where work is being done to create an antidote, a way to halt meat infection by the meat, shielding him from any potential future infection. He quickly learns of a monster lurking several levels below, destroying core structural supports and threatening all the base's antidote work. Vadim is dropped into the depths and comes face to face with the big rig Karnarak. Vadim must outrun its plasma breath, blood beam, and ultimately destroy it. He manages to survive the encounter. A distress signal from a nearby airship appears. Intent on continuing his hunt for the meat prophet Yuri Markov, Vadim takes an airbike from the Karnarak's trucky corpse and departs. But as he approaches the flying vessel, Vadim's airbike is mistakenly shot down by a volley of anti-air rounds from the ECIF forces, firing on meat monsters on the airship's exterior. Landing on a platform, Vadim makes his way along the side of the ship to meet more ECIF forces fighting the good fight. These troops previously loaded some antidote onto their craft and are slowly dousing it on the city below, like trying to stop a forest fire.
Only who can prevent forest fires? You pressed U, referring to me. That is incorrect. The correct answer is you.
When Vadim reaches the top of the airship, an infected Mi-24 helicopter flies in to attack him. Vadim focuses his firepower on the monster's eyes and destroys the flying croctocopter, splitting it in two. The ECIF regains full control of the airship to continue their antidote spraying. Vadim sprints off to confront the Meat Prophet, who most likely went back to the Earth portal he used to start this damn war. Is he getting it ready to trigger the ultimate meat invasion? Unfortunately, the portal is atop the well-guarded Institute of Teleportation skyscraper on the other side of the city. That airship would surely be gunned down by anti-air weaponry or worse, so Vadim must run on foot through the city. Vadim traverses through the burning, meat-infested city streets, wasting no time to reach the skyscraper at the heart of the city. The butchered apartment buildings, collapsed roads, and crumbling concrete all show how quickly the meat overran the region and decimated its population, fueling our hero's determination to stop Yuri Markov and end the meat invasion. But just before he can close in on the skyscraper, Vadim gets stopped by an enormous meat monster that ingrained itself into an entire building. Battling this monster house, Vadim destroys the outer shell of the beast and takes out its one eye, killing it. Resolved to end the invasion and take down Markov, Vadim enters the skyscraper. This level has Vadim take an elevator to the top, shooting down hordes of flying meat monsters, grubs crawling on the walls, and infected humans riding on transport pods, all while dodging meatballs falling onto the platform. The ECIF appears to have already tried reaching the top and failed. A surviving soldier throws him a helpful weapon upgrade in a desperate attempt to escape the overrun building. At the top, Vadim confronts Yuri Markov, the Meat Prophet, now fully powered with psychokinetic energy thanks to harvesting humanity. Vadim goes from challenge to challenge, with Yuri shooting lasers, meatballs flying in from the moon, and even enemies being conjured from pure energy. Having some of humanity's evil tendencies left inside of him, Yuri is frustrated and starts making mistakes. He starts using the energy meant to power up the portal against Vadim instead, sending in waves of plasma and lightning down from the sky. But it is not enough to stop the tenacity of our hero. The meat on the moon is not happy with this turn of events, and unnerved at experiencing defeat for the first time in its prolonged life. The meat sends a tendril through the portal to bite into Yuri Markov's body and drags him in, wanting to salvage any energy inside the Meat Prophet to protect itself on the moon. Even with the Earth portal in human control and the meat forces on Earth without a leader, the fight is not over yet. The meat could just keep leeching energy from the moon's colonies and iron core. The moon portal is still a threat, and whatever is leading the meat's forces up there. Vadim must act fast before the portal to the moon is closed on the other side. Vadim leaps inside, following a disgraced Yuri. Arriving through the portal, stationed in low lunar orbit, Vadim arrives on the infected moon. He notices how the gravity has changed to become closer to that of Earth. The meat has been spreading through the lunar surface the whole time, adding massive amounts of mass to the moon, corrupting it. Running across the meatified lunar surface, Vadim fights all the meat in his way. We see the Earth in the background, becoming more and more red, as the meat is still a threat to the planet. The meat meteors from earlier made quick work of more unprepared forces across the globe. How many people are now dead? Millions? Billions? Codillions? Vadim fights his way into the secret research facility until he arrives at a darkened chamber, where he finds Yuri Markov, a shadow of his former self. The smartest human alive was now a puppet for the meat's brain chamber. After a drawn-out fight, Yuri explodes into gore, a fitting end to a wretched life. This exposes a brain controlling many of the meat's activities on the moon, which defends itself with giant eyeballs and energy projectiles. After destroying the brain, the entire chamber shuts down. But the meat somehow lives on, somewhere deeper inside the facility. The fight isn't over yet. Once Vadim reaches the innermost corridors of the Moon Lab, he fights his way into the deepest part of the facility, the site of Markov's former research lab. Waiting for him there, the Iron Meat, a human-like amalgamation of flesh, bones, and metal plates, the ultimate weapon, a walking tank cyborg. But mostly a protective shell for the command brain contained within its skull. This fight is long and hard, destroying each piece of the iron meat one by one. This meaty brain was the original cell that came from the meat dimension, now ultra-powered from its harvest. Crudely put, the meat's leader in our dimension, the Lord of the Harvest.
I'm the Lord of the Harvest.
Who's that?
When the meat brain is eventually exposed, it makes one last-ditch effort to kill Vadim. It latches onto him, but because of his armor and antidote, it cannot infect him. So it forms muscles on top of Vadim's armored legs and marches him back and forth to hopefully get killed by a wayward projectile. Thankfully, Vadim triumphs and destroys the brain. This sets off a chain reaction that starts to disturb all the meat connected to the Iron Meat's telepathic leader. The machinery and computer systems are also set free from the meat, which helps Sasha, the moon soldier who's been fighting this entire time. Maybe one day we'll learn more about her story, fighting the meat on the moon. DLC? Anyone? She regains control of the Moon Lab's computer systems and triggers a self-destruct countdown that would annihilate the facility and hopefully the meat throughout the entire moon. The two sprint for the escape ship in the launch bay. They see the first escape ship launch to Mars, with meat debris surrounding the exit port, begging the question, what could have escaped? Vadim and Sasha jump into the only remaining escape ship and manage to depart just as the moon explodes. But their ship gets damaged from all the debris and spirals towards Earth, being destroyed before our heroes could get back home safely. The end. On Earth, with the telepathic Iron Meat leader and moon being destroyed, meat monsters everywhere spontaneously burst into blood and guts. But the ECIF still has to eliminate and clean up all remaining spores, growths, and cells of meat, so that none of these could reform into a new brain. Thankfully, Vadim helped save the Antidote. The troops closed the portal at the Institute of Teleportation. Humans only have one portal now, and I don't think they'll be using it anytime soon. On a tropical beach, we see the former moon splattered across the sky. Panning down, we see an escape pod. Our heroes survived. Sasha and Vadim celebrate their victory thanks to a nearby beach bar, clinking their glasses together and enjoying a well-deserved drink. The destroyed moon and its remnants now form a blood ring orbiting Earth, which we now see on the main menu as well. And don't worry about our planet losing its important moon. With gravity and humanity's technology, the blood ring would quickly be formed into a liquefied blood moon, reaching a similar mass to our former moon. The tides and climate would function how they did before and stabilize Earth's axis, putting a new meaning to the term blood moon. But what happens to the meat? At the end of the game, the meat's dimension gets fully cut off from ours. The meat prophet Yuri and the Iron Meat leader failed to get enough energy from our world, preventing it from opening a true portal. But meat did escape to Mars from the moon. There are colonies on Mars, but there's also no portal there. Will the meat ever regain control in our universe? The red planet is also made of red iron oxide. Only time will tell, and maybe a potential sequel. And there you have it. That was the full scoop on Iron Meat's in-game story from start to finish. If you want to experience it for yourself, Iron Meat will be available on all platforms, with physical editions for the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 5, distributed by Strictly Limited Games. So, can you defeat the meat?